Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Bridges of Belief. On my left, we've got
Joshua Badu.
And in the middle, you've got me, Kevin Paulraj, and to my right,
Poya Heidari.
it's Heidari Shahi. Don't even know your own surname. No, I'm Poya. That's Kevin. That joke, that was a risk. I was thinking, would that joke actually be funny? Would that get a response? And
We don't know. I guess we'll never know.
no, we know.
till 3
Josh
months later.
gave a sympathy laugh. It was a sympathy laugh. He's
Dean,
like,
was that a slap or was that a miss or was that a hit?
You're putting
Be
me in a
honest,
difficult
Dean.
position.
Be honest, Dean. It's okay. My ego can take it.
You can see.
Look, what's a hit to us might be a miss to someone else, and what's a miss to us might be a hit to someone
Maybe we'll
else.
do a little Insta poll.
If we want to start off with some honesty, then I can. Yeah, but no, we'll be.
Some honesty.
Let's
Okay.
continue.
Yeah, I feel like if you want honesty, just go straight to Kev. He's gonna hit you between the
No.
eyes with it.
Yeah, he will hit you.
See, that intro was funny because here's how I imagine it going down, right? Like speed rattling it off. Like I'm gonna do it for all three of us. Just how I was gonna imagine. Hey, this is the Bridges of Belief podcast. You're with Joshua Badu, Poya, Heidari. Sorry if I messed up your name. Kevin Paulraj, and this is the Bridges of Belief podcast. Thank you for listening. And boom, we go into it. That's my envisioning for it. Now, I'm not saying how you did it was wrong. I'm just saying it's funny how whatever your vision is, everyone has their own interpretation.
Yeah,
or perspective
everyone has
on it.
their own style. Everyone has their own style.
It's
That's
al-
true.
It's almost like everyone has their own reality.
Ooh,
Ooh, segue. Hello.
Yes.
For those of you at home wondering, what does Poya mean by that? Well, guys, I'm just gonna be upfront. I've got like a mad headache today, so just take it easy on me, okay?
Okay. So
Yeah, chuck some Pentecostals who are listening, chuck some prayers up for your boy. Let's do a healing.
That's the.
I know it's gonna be like a month from now,
That's
but
the excuse for this week. What was the excuse for last week again?
the excuse for last week was
ADHD.
No, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure.
Dean, do you have ADHD? Do you have ADHD,
No,
Dean?
he doesn't. He too clearly doesn't.
and we clearly
Kev
do.
You can tell.
We
This
clearly
is gonna
do.
be the longest running. Kev wants ADHD. Are you actually diagnosed now? Are you clinically diagnosed now, or are you still self-diagnosing?
No. I'm in the process of getting diagnosed officially.
And by process, he means, I'm on TikTok watching different videos on
Bro,
ADHD.
you know what's so
like,
funny?
oh, that's my
You
life.
came in here talking
Imagine
about
I get it. Imagine I get it, and I'm not actually ADHD.
That's what I'm thinking. Because you came in here
Nah,
talking
I'll
about how I want to apologize to a past client. I told I was completely wrong. I get it. You're like telling me how I view ADHD. I'm like, bro, you may not even have
And
it.
you can see it. That's why he was smiling the whole time. I was just like, that's what he's thinking.
I have thought what happens if Kevin doesn't have it.
What if he doesn't have it? Like Poya is the real deal.
I think I have it, but there's a possibility. You never
I
know.
think to be fair to Kevin, I think he definitely has it.
Can we document him being like?
Yeah, we can do an
the result?
episode. We can
Yeah.
follow him into the doctor's
Can you start
office.
vlogging your life?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
and just hear the doctor saying, bro,
Yeah.
like, nah, you're fine. Like,
Yes.
it's all in your head.
Yeah.
And then you
I mean,
argue with the
ADHD
doctor.
is.
You disagree
You know
with
what?
the
I'm
doctor's
not going to say
diagnosis.
anything because that would be fun if I bring it to Josh and I'm just like, you know what, bro? I don't have it. And Josh will be so happy and I'm like, nah, I do have it. That's something I would do to Josh.
No, I think you would argue with the doctor. If the doctor told you, nah, you don't have ADHD, you'd be like, doc, you're crazy. Like, I've got ADHD.
Next minute, I've gone to like 7 different doctors and I'm like, you're all wrong.
I'm here for a second opinion. Which second opinion? It's my 5th second opinion.
But Poya, there was something you wanted to
something
bring
I
up,
wanted
one
to
of the
talk
first
about.
segments, which was going to be very powerful, bro. Lead us into this.
Oh man.
Lead us, Moses.
What?
I said lead us, Moses. Go.
Lead osmosis. Oh gosh, you guys are all doomed. It feels like it's another vice. Nah, I wanted to talk about I wanted to talk about 3 topics. Well, we wanted to talk about 3 topics. I think the first one that I wanted to talk about, and this I think could relate, is the internet versus reality.
It definitely can relate.
Definitely can relate. How? Yeah. Why do you say that, Josh?
Well, I want to hear you kind of preface and bring it. Tell us how this even thought came up, because I have an idea of what you meant by it, but I don't know exactly what you meant by it.
I think what I've noticed happening in society recently is that a lot of people tend to just believe whatever they hear on the internet, and it doesn't necessarily match up with reality. It's a whole algorithm issue, right? So best example I can think of is the whole like how the woke whatever group is presented. You know, the people with the colored hair and all that. you have a specific, like, there's a specific narrative that's presented on social media, right? And so then most people watch that will have a particular view, and then be like, oh, that's what they're all like, when really it's not quite the case. Or even same with people who like, I guess, support Trump, right? There's a whole narrative like, if you support Trump, you're racist, you're homophobe, all of that stuff, when it's actually a lot more complex. Most people support Trump and just like, whatever, just like normal people. And I say this as someone who's not like a Trump supporter or anything. It's just...
Okay, so I got a question to jump on from that. What percentage of people do you believe actually comment on anything on YouTube or social media?
12%, because I reckon most of them are bots.
Do you mean based on the people who watch it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Views versus comments. And have you ever commented on any video and left like a crazy, you'll never go anywhere, like kind of thing?
Like as a troll?
Yeah. As a troll or as anything. So what I'm trying to do is like differentiate between how many trolls there are versus who doesn't comment at all versus who leaves an actual sincere, like normal comment. And I'm like, have you ever been someone who has left a comment, and if so, what kind of comment was it? Because are we in the silent majority of people who never comment on any YouTube video?
For us personally, okay. Well, start. First of all, I wouldn't know the answer to that, but for me personally, I think if it's a topic that I love and if it's something that I feel very strongly about, I'll leave a comment. I have never. I would say I've never really like aggressively just put someone down. I've had some friends who do some, put up some questionable content, and I've messaged them about it and been like, hey, I'm not sure if I agree with this. So I've kept it above board in that way, but that's just me.
All right, just guess what percentage of people you think actually are the ones who are like going crazy in the comment section versus what percentage of people actually just like don't say nothing and like just watch it.
From views to people who comment and going crazy.
Yeah. Because you look at the comment section, because this goes back to whole internet versus reality. You look at the comment section of a video, and you're like, people either hate the person who's on screen, they love them like to death, or it's just absolute mayhem of polarization. And you're like, is this reality or is this just the internet? So it's kind of like, what percentage of people are actually the ones commenting versus the ones who are just average people in real life who would never say something like that to someone?
Yep.
I reckon a lot of it might actually be bots. That's a theory I've heard, where it's there's a theory going around that certain countries are using bots to kind of destabilize Western society by creating division.
That's a great...
I literally saw a video on that today.
That's a great theory from, what's his name? Alex Jones.
Nah, this was...
That's an Alex Jones thing.
No, I don't feel like it's that out of whack. I feel like...
kind of very known.
Yeah.
I don't feel like that's an Alex Jones theory.
I've heard of it, and it makes sense to me. But I don't...
I mean, that's the whole thing, right? Like, that's what I'm getting at. It's like what we see on the internet kind of informs how we perceive reality, right? How do you divide people? By warping their reality, or I guess creating division through the culture war, or I'm struggling to articulate myself today. Yeah.
Okay. I think it's very possible, and I think they have cause. That's what you're saying. You're saying they have cause, really strong cause to do it. And it's easy to do it. It'd be so easy to do it. My personal experience, which is not objective at all, is that I don't think so. And the only reason why I say this is because I've obviously, just like you guys, I've come across a lot of those comment sections and actually looked into it. And when you look into it, you can see that the way that people are getting triggered in the comment section and arguing with each other, it's like, I don't know. To me, I just get the sense that that's too hard to mimic. Like, it's it's exactly how people would act in real life is what I see. But that's only my perception. I'm not looking at the whole internet.
Does it depend on the medium though? Like, we're talking like YouTube versus TikTok versus...
yeah, well, that's a whole...
Because what comment section are we talking about? Because I feel like YouTube is where the bots would come out. Instagram, maybe not so much.
Sometimes when it's a bot, you can tell it's a bot because like what they write doesn't even seem human. Like, they would definitely fail the bot test, if they were trying to like crack the puzzle on a website. Like, they would fail that test because it sounds so robotic.
Yes, that's a
but
very good
about
point.
ChatGPT though? I feel like
that's a very good point what you brought up, because, for example, right now, even if you ask ChatGPT, like, people always say it's so generic. Even now, it's generic. It's going to take years to get to the point where it can get to that point where you can really like you can't even tell. You can tell if something's written from ChatGPT.
Yeah, if you just put in the prompt. But if you say, hey, do it in a tone of Kevin Paulraj,
Yeah.
then now you start to hear a lot more ADHD comments and stuff, and
It's a lot more scattered.
a bit more scattered. Now I'm playing,
But I think if you go deeper into it and if you keep asking the questions, then you can kind of like. But it's like then again, look at if they can't do it on ChatGPT,
Yeah.
like they would have to be doing it at scale.
Well, there's also another
It's
angle.
impossible to do that.
Because there's another thought came to me though while you guys were talking about that. I think there's another angle where there's a lot of money to be made by getting people divided and getting them like all riled up. And I think a great example of that is Red Pill. So, things like Fresh and Fit. You guys know Fresh and Fit?
yeah,
The Whatever podcast, Andrew Tate stuff. Trying to think of more examples. There's a few more out there, but
Wait, can you give us an example
yeah. So
of like what type of story of how like it gets blown out?
I think like there's definitely so specifically the one that came to mind is how dating is talked about on the internet, particularly Red Pill, where I think a lot of Red Pill have created this idea that in order to get a partner as a man, girls care about money and status and height and all this stuff. And sure, there's elements of truth, and there's probably people who are exactly like that they're so shallow, that's what they just look for. And there's probably like, it comes from somewhere. So there's definitely truth to that to an extent. But what they do is they kind of generalize and say this applies to all women. And now what we're seeing is a lot of men being like, oh, women are shallow and they're just gold diggers. And, because I'm like not 6 foot, I can't get anyone, or I got to make heaps of money to find a girl or whatever, all this stuff. And I don't think that's true. I mean, I've got 2 friends, right, who are dating one of them got married recently to an awesome woman. One of my best mates just got into a relationship with an awesome woman, and their partners are gorgeous, really feminine, really cool. Like the stuff that the Red Pill's like, yeah, that's like a good woman to go for, good women, good values. But the guys I know are like
6'5" blue eyes.
No, one of them's my height.
6'5",
blue eyes, finance. That's literally what they're saying. Red Pill's saying girls want that, but like I just don't see that in my reality. It's just like these 2 guys, they're in uni, they're working really hard, they're like building towards something, but they're in their late 20s or 30, my age, and they work casual jobs, and they don't make a lot of money, but they're working really hard. They're going to uni. They're about to finish their degrees. They're about to get jobs. So they're building towards something, and they're just good dudes. They have good character. They're authentic. And, on paper, you're like, oh, like a girl who's a doctor wouldn't go out with a guy who's like finishing off an IT degree, or a girl who is like working in a big like firm wouldn't date a guy who just finished his IT degree that works in retail, and neither of them are like jacked or like super like, ugh. Like they're just good. They're just really cool guys. They're just good dudes. They're authentic, and they try. They go for things. And so I can see where there's the nuggets of truth where it's like women want a guy who's like building towards something, all that. But I think what I see the Red Pill do is they just kind of exaggerate it, generalize it. And then I see with LGBT stuff as well, like the whole like, oh, trans people are just always triggered and always gay. And I have trans friends. They're actually pretty like chill people. Like they're pretty open to having a chat. And like, I don't see that. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but I'm saying a lot of LGBT friends of mine are like pretty reasonable and really intellectual people and can actually like present really good arguments. But what the internet presents is like a subsection that's very reactive.
So I love how you brought that up. Can I go first?
Yeah, for sure.
Because so recently we're finishing editing our street interview about Neuralink, which will be releasing hopefully soon, very soon. And I sent it to a few different friends. Kev was one of those friends.
Oh, where's my like?
I wanted to get
True.
No, I sent it to 3 people. I could have sent it to you as well, Poya, but this time around,
okay. It's fine. I'm not good enough. I have ADHD. It's okay.
But what was very interesting was one of my friends who I sent it to / associate. He's in the marketing, content creation, editing game, and he came back with some notes saying, "Hey, look, love what you've done, but you're way too neutral in your video. And if you came with a more polarizing stance, maybe a way to get people riled up, this could get a lot more views," kind of thing. And it was kind of funny because like I knew he's a good guy, cool dude. Like I know he's not trying to say, hey, go and like trigger people, but he also showed me the objective reality of like what gets eyeballs, which is riling people up, like get into their heads, polarize them, just get them on the edge. And then I had to make a decision to myself. I was like, do you want to be the content creator, the kind of person who will purposefully try to, polarize and trigger people just to get more seen and more views? Or are you willing to take a bit of an L and get less views for the sake of keeping nuance? And I think that a lot of people have to make that decision, whether it's a corporation or individuals. Like, they have to decide, will I kind of be the extreme version for the sake of people watching me, or will I, be real rather than just what the internet shows us?
It's something me and Kevin, we talked about when we started this, because I think you were saying maybe we should be more polarizing, kind of today in that idea, which is a fair idea. And yeah, it's a really big moral question, because it's the whole, I don't know, it kind of reminds me of, what good is it to gain the world yet lose one's soul, right?
Yeah.
And you are kind of it is kind of a deceptive thing to do, to polarize for the sake of, I would say it's deceptive.
For the sake of views. But like, there seems to be a way to do it as well. I think that could be where you can do it in a more clean way. I don't know. Kev, you about to say something?
In one of the masterminds I'm in, this mastermind literally is it's almost like a business program, and they actually have a particular philosophy, and their philosophy is much about equilibrium, and they kind of comment on the outside polarized perceptions, and they use that word polarized. And these creators, they do really well financially, and they always talk about how, unfortunately, we don't do polarizing, contrasting content, because that's just not what we believe in. So the truth is, we take L's for it, and we don't get the whole views. But sometimes, occasionally, they'll put out a polarizing piece of content, just for the fun of it.
Just for the fun.
And then they'll comment on polarizing characters like Trump or what happened with Andrew and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's a little bit more nuanced in the sense that I don't think it's exactly always just a superficial thing to do something for views, because you might do it temporarily because it can give you more reach, and you can reach people as well. It's almost like marketing. Marketing is polarizing people, because you're putting people in pain. Because you're saying to people, you don't have this thing, your life is going to suck. You're making them feel pain. That's polarizing the audience and making them really feel like, man, if you want my product, you will feel so good with my product. You're polarizing them emotionally, but they need to be agitated and polarized in order to sell to them most of the time.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't think it's always a superficial thing, but I completely get what you're saying. But boy, I want to ask you a question, because I feel like some of the examples that you're bringing up, the thing that I'm sensing is like, this is actually an extremely important topic. This is a very important topic. Can I ask you, in your perception, why is this topic so important?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, just trying to figure out how to articulate it. A divided society is a society that falls, right? And so what I'm seeing is, particularly in the West, is just we're just so tribalistic now, and it's just leading to so many. Yeah, it's just leading to a lot of issues and a lot of even. No, let me restart that. I want to restart that, because I think I want to think carefully about my answer. I think coming from my heart, I was trying to be intellectual, but I think I'm just gonna come from my heart. I just see people getting hurt. So, for example, I've got a lot of guy friends who have kind of bought into this red pill stuff. That just have a very nihilistic view of love and relationships, and they're getting their own way.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm thinking of certain people in mind that I've had, and they're coming around now. But that's just one area where personally, I've seen it happen. I think particularly as a Christian, I really want to see people more. I want to see people, I guess, like, connected more. And I think the way that, like, a lot of Christians respond to, say, different belief systems or different ways of life that don't align with what the Bible, I guess, what the Bible says, align with Christian beliefs and values. I think that they're very reactive, and it causes more division, pushes people further away from Jesus. So I'm talking about things like, biggest example, LGBT, like, just this whole, like, the narrative that I was talking about before, where they present as these really reactive people when they're actually not, and they're hurting, and they're probably they're actually not as privileged as the media will want you to think. It's despite all the, like, corporate stuff that, the things that corporations trying to plug,
So, Poya, you mean, like, for example, when you say, like, they're presented in, like, a really reactive way, you're saying, like, as an example, it's almost like I would watch something like that. I would watch an interview of a person in the LGBT community, and then I would now go to school or uni and meet someone like that, and I'd see them in the same way, and I'd prejudge them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like I hear a lot of Christian people, a lot of my Christian friends say, "Oh, like there's, it's everywhere," or like, "Why do we have to talk about like, why is this an issue?" Like, what do they say? I'm trying to figure out what they say. Man, I should have had a coffee before I did this, but there's this idea that they're probably not as marginalized as they are. But I have gay friends who get beat up, who like they weren't beat up, but they got like verbally abused.
Wow.
By a group of people. I have a friend who's gender fluid that was telling me a story. This was 2 years ago. I was meeting up with them. I was saying how, they were getting harassed by a bunch of teenagers in a park. And I'm just like, that's horrible. Yeah. Like that stuff still happens, but people think it doesn't because all these corporations are putting rainbow flags out.
Yep.
And so again, that's a narrative, right? And a lot of these people probably don't know anyone who's part of the LGBT.
They just get it from the internet.
And you know what? Likewise, Christians are presented as homophobic and all this.
Yep.
When I don't know many Christians who are actually like that. I think a lot of Christians are actually quite nuanced.
Yep.
But then, I've met some people where they're a bit on edge around me because I'm a Christian. They have some preconceptions and they get to know me. They realize I'm open to listening and I'm not like, I don't judge anyone. I'm pretty chill. Like I'll be friends with anyone. You know what I mean? And it's just this whole thing of like, we don't need more hate in the world to sound like, I sound like a hippie, but that's the best way I can articulate. I'm just kind of over it.
I agree. And you know what, like the sense that you keep getting is like, so many of the prejudice that you experience when someone comes up to you and, you have a conversation with you and they say, man, you're actually not too bad. Like you're not too bad as a Christian.
Yeah.
And you immediately get the sense this is all coming from the internet. Like this must come from the internet. So it just shows you like how critical this topic is to be talked about. Josh, can I ask you, why do you think this topic of reality versus internet is so important to talk about?
Look, I guess I'll be echoing what Poya said. Like, united we stand, divided we fall. And in the end, like, you have so many different influences coming your way for how you want to live your life. At an individual level, at a community level, at a national level. Like, as a society, how do we want to move forward? And I think the comment you hear a lot is back in the day before social media, like if you had a disagreement of values or ideas or political beliefs, it wasn't the end of the world. Like people would still be in the same community. But now when you have that disagreement, it feels like there's a lot of vitriol behind it now. There's a lot of malice and hate behind it. And to me, like, I was listening to the Patrick Bet-David podcast recently, and he was saying how he was interviewing one guy, a person who wrote a book called The Fourth Turning, and they were like kind of highlighting countries that had gone through civil wars, and they said that one of the biggest themes of each of the countries that went through a civil war was they never saw it coming. Now, I don't think Australia is in that position. Like, I don't think we're as polarized as like the US. US is like leading the charge in that, but I think ultimately it could happen. Like, I remember saying to a few friends, I might seem crazy in saying this, but like when I saw the Trump assassination attempt, I was like, if he died, I think that could have triggered a civil war. People would be like, oh, nah, BS. Like, maybe it wouldn't, but maybe it could have. You never know. Something that crazy happening to such a polarizing figure with such a cult-like fan base. Who knows how people would have reacted? Yeah,
and that's why you want to go there.
Josh wants to bring it all back together.
Make it great again, right? In a true way. But I think it's kind of I think it's obvious why it's important, man. Like if the world sees two realities, one that's the internet, which we think it's reality, but it's not real, the actual truth, then you're being misled, Yeah. What do you think?
I agree. I think it's probably one of the most important topics to ever talk about because you see so many people's perspectives coming from the internet. Like, even we joke about it, but my ADHD, we joke about it, but people got all sorts of symptoms they're looking up on Google. We joke about it, but, we see in conversation someone just saying with so much certainty, oh, this is the case. And you're like, where's their source? And it comes from Google. And I'm sure we've all done that. We've all done that to a certain degree, but it's like...
I actually use Bing, so I've never done that.
I use ChatGPT. So extra good.
Here's how I feel about it, though. Like, people love to get into a gang
Yeah, it's
Funny enough, I knew that was like one of the segments, but I'm not trying to go down that direction. Like, to me, think about like the idea of entering into prison. And I'm sure it's not like this in every prison, but you do hear about the idea of if you go into prison, you need to find a gang to protect yourself, because if you're by yourself, you're now vulnerable to being preyed upon, right? So even if you weren't racist, you would have to become a racist for the sake of survival. And at times, I feel like you see the same thing happen, whether it's politically, racially, whatever it may be. Like, you may like harbor like hidden disagreements with your own tribe or whatever, but for the sake of like feeling like you have someone who has your back, you will start doing crazy things, start following crazy ideologies for the sake of saying, okay, I know that they're with me though. You know, I think that's what I feel like I see most online. It's like people just love to say they're critical thinkers, and then the moment their group, their tribe, their crew, whatever, say something that's kind of crazy, they kind of look the other way. They'll downplay it for the sake of not stirring the pot. Am I wrong in saying this?
All right. Next shoutout begins.
Just to give you guys context, pretty much what happened was the battery in the camera ran out, or something in the camera ran out. So now they've got a new film or whatever they use. So just to give you some context, we've actually gone on to a completely different topic. And the topic that we're talking about is something that is, I would say, pretty touchy amongst us three. And me and Poya, knowing each other for a while, one of the things was we've always kind of argued about sin in churches and denominations. So what I mean is, in the past churches that I've gone to Pentecostal churches, there's been a lot of, I've witnessed a lot of, you could say, backdoor drama happen. Like, this person is having sex with this person, that person's having sex with this person. And Poya's consensus was that this typically mostly happens in Pentecostal churches. And this is where we're arguing, because me and Josh believe that this actually happens probably everywhere and you just don't know. And this is kind of where the argument was kind of sizzling at the moment. So we're just going to continue. This is a bit of an intro for it. Let's continue.
Definitely happens everywhere, you just don't know. But it may be at a reduced rate. I will give that.
I want to know what are the factors that make it a reduced rate? Because that's very interesting.
Because I'm thinking about a church I visited now, which was a Baptist church, and had a very conservative congregation. The kind of congregation was like, oh, if you want to see me, you need to come to my church. We've had a situation like that where I was like, hey, bro, I was talking to my friend who goes there. I was like, oh, that girl's kind of cute. Like, what are your thoughts? Yada, yada, yada. He was kind of like intermediary, went to go speak to her about it. And then apparently her response was like, he would have to be coming to this church first. So I think you have certain congregations and places where they have a much more rigorous process for how they go about doing certain things, which can kind of protect them from falling into certain sins and certain traps. While I would say Pentecostal probably are a bit more free-flowing, a bit more progressive, I think there's pros and cons to that. The pros is, like, yeah, you're going to have a certain level of relatability and understanding of the world that you wouldn't have in other denominations. But what comes with that is...
Wait, why do you say that? Like certain relatability and stuff?
Oh, sorry, yeah, you go. I don't know question.
When I say relatability, is in, I think Pentecostal churches...
similar to the world. They can blend in with the world more?
Yeah, they'll have some similarities to the world, which is, in my eyes, a pro and a con. The pro is you'll have a certain relatability that will allow you to like evangelize and reach out to people in the world.
And be corrupted.
But then, and we know the story of someone who fell into a situation like that. You heard that he was at the parties, you heard that he was doing these, doing that.
Yeah.
And, you know, eventually, if you're around that environment long enough, you're going to probably get bit in the ass by it.
Yeah. I've actually heard, have you guys heard of the red frog story?
Tell us.
You guys know about the red frogs,
yeah.
right?
I didn't say about the red frogs.
So it's a group of Christians that apparently go to like...
they go to like
schoolies?
parties.
They go parties, schoolies, festivals, and they kind of like hand out lollies and waters and look after people, almost like as a ministry. And there was a funny story about how like one guy, Christian, 3 days later, he ended up like naked partying, doing pills and coke and everything like that with them.
Are you serious?
Oh man,
that's so wild from red frogs as well.
That's what I heard.
You gotta be strong in your convictions, man. It's not for everyone. Red frogs ain't for everyone.
Yeah, but
like it's not.
But this is the point we're talking about. But go on, Josh.
But that's a good point. So like, if the more out there you are, the more exposed you are, the bigger, you know, you got to be strong. You got to be steadfast.
Can I ask, what is required? What is required for someone to be able to go out in the world, right? And yet not be of the world.
Oh, bro, that's my life, man. This is my bread and butter. Yeah, like I mean, I go to parties all the time where there's all kind of like stuff going. I used to play Quidditch in uni.
Yep.
If there was another word for if you wanted to look up Quidditch in the thesaurus, one of the other words you'd find is debauchery. It was wild.
Damn.
Like genuinely, but I had mad conversations with people, and I think because I had good teaching in my church, yeah, I didn't do anything stupid, and I also was thinking like, how are my actions going to reflect Jesus, right? If I'm trying to reflect Jesus and I'm getting smashed and I'm hooking up with girls, I'm doing drugs or anything, like how am I doing them any favors by trying to share my faith with them? I'm just a hypocrite.
I really want to see your point of view on how to do that, Kev. I feel like
but I don't think. Sorry. I know.
No,
I was going to point on something that Poya said, because he's used this a lot of times before, and I want to hear your perspective.
I got another thing though I want to add though, if that's all right.
Okay, you want to?
Yeah, I think there's a bit. I think it just depends on the person though. I think because I also I like being contrarian.
Yep.
I like being the odd one out.
Yep.
So I use that to my advantage. Like it's a toxic trait of mine, and it's also a helpful trait. So if I'm at a party and I'm around a lot of people who are wild, I'm gonna like probably go hard the opposite way. Yeah, so it's like I kind of use that to my advantage, I guess.
Yeah.
I think another part of it is I've just always been used to being around people like that because I didn't have a lot of Christian friends growing up. I was always used to being the guy that had like different beliefs from everyone. I think another element of it too is I wanted to make sure I wanted to care for my friends. So by me being sober and responsible, it meant I can drive people home. And that in itself was a way to show Jesus love. Like I gave so many people lived home that were out of my way, like that were an inconvenience to me. And they're like, why are you doing this? I'm like, man, because I love God and God loves you. And that's why I think I have a good relation with the LGBT. Like they love me. Like I get along with them really well. Because yeah, I just love them. I'm not like throwing theology at them. It's like, yeah, like I'm like we all live our own lives. I'm just here to be your friend and I love you. And what can I do for you? You need a lift home? Let me give you a lift home. What are your thoughts, I guess, on questions? So I feel like you had some.
No, I think you definitely said a couple of different points, and you also mentioned the contrarian thing. And I guess it's like when you're being contrarian, it's like you have that intention front of mind that you are a Christian, and you remind yourself, like it helps you remind yourself that you're not of them as well. So I guess that definitely helps too. I wanted to touch on something that we always kind of clash on here and there, and I want to get Josh's take on it, which is you mentioned something, you said good teaching of the word. Yeah. Right? Now, because Poya's thing is he's always said to me, he's always said, you know, Pentecostal churches, some Pentecostal churches, especially the ones that you've been to, they don't have good teaching of the word. That's probably why, you know, your church and some of the people have struggled. You got to have good teaching of the word. My sense on this has always been like it's the same teaching. Like they say the same thing is wrong. They say the same thing is wrong. They don't go, oh, sex is okay. They stick to the same things. So I'm really curious to understand when you say good teaching, what are they talking about? So that being said, I want to hear your perspective. But Josh, do you have any perspective on the whole idea of good teaching of the word? Because
teaching is different from practices.
Okay.
Like, I think we will teach the same things like, okay, this is right, this is wrong. But the guardrails we put in place or the cultural customs we have is different. So, for example, like the example I gave before of like, hey, if you're going to say, I don't know, see someone, make sure they come to this church and they meet all the members first before you guys start engaging. Let's make sure that there's like someone who's watching you guys and you're staying accountable to, right?
Okay, yep.
Now, that may not be the protocol. That may not be in the word, and that may not be the protocol, or maybe it is. I'm not sure. I'm not going to say it is. Maybe there's a precedent for it.
Yep.
But that's not the protocol for, say, the typical Pentecostal church. It's not like, hey, report to your senior pastor before you start dating this person. Like, stuff just starts kind of flying.
Yep. Some of them it is, from what I understand. Some churches are like that.
Okay.
Some are like,
So you're going to have case by case.
Yep.
but we're talking by and large.
We're speaking generalities.
In that way, I would say the practices are different. Maybe not the teaching of the word, but like the customs we have, the culture we have, is probably a bit more progressive, a bit more loose than it would be with some other denominations.
Yeah.
Kev?
I agree. I definitely think that that's a factor as well. I think all of them is definitely a factor, but go on, Poya.
Yeah, I think that is actually linked to teaching. So when I mean
that's a good point.
When I talk about teaching, it's not just saying, "Oh, this is wrong, that's not wrong." It's so much deeper than that. It's actually taking the Bible and teaching it in context. So I think I see like sometimes passages taken out of context.
Can you give us an example?
Okay. Off the top of my head, I remember No Shade to Hillsong or Brian Houston. I actually really like Phil Dooley. I think Phil Dooley is doing really cool things. I think he's taking Hillsong in a really good direction. But I think Brian Houston's preaching was just like, it was just him pulling out different Bible verses that just supported whatever he wanted to teach about. But if you look at it in context, it's like, is it actually saying that? It's just like, there's a term exegesis, right? So exegesis is when you read scripture and you take meaning out of the passage rather than putting your own meaning in. What I see happen in a lot of these churches, and look, it's not just, it's a generalization that Pentecostal churches have to, I just want to be clear, that's generalization. Yeah. I think there's a lot of things Pentecostal churches do better than churches that have good teaching, which I'll get into after this, because that's important too. But I think what I see is there's not a lot of exegesis. It's like, I have a thing that I want to talk about. Oh, this passage lines up, so I'm going to use it. But I'm going to put my own meaning into it. That's the issue I have. And I think the credit I'll give to Anglican churches, and I have a lot of issues with the Anglican church. I can get into that too. A lot of issues. One thing I will give is that at least intellectually, they actually look at passage and draw meaning out, and they'll look at the context and the time period and all that. And I think in terms of godliness, so things like how to pursue sexual purity, that's woven into teaching and into application as well. Like that's hammered into us. It's like you don't like live with your partner before marriage. Like that's hammered into us, and it's hammered in a really real way.
Into us as well.
But it's hammered throughout the passage, and they use scripture to show it. But it's different.
That's where like
we know that we've been taught that as well.
But it's done in a different way where it's like this is the why, and they actually explain it as well.
But they explain the
do they? Okay, sure.
Yeah,
maybe. I mean, and there's consequences as well for that, right?
Yeah.
So if you're like living with your partner before marriage, you're not going to be able to lead. Like there's no way they'll let you lead a connect group or a Bible study or a youth group.
Because me and Lisa were living together, and I remember at that time we wanted to lead one. They're like, the pastor was kind of like,
see, at my church,
get married first.
At an Anglican church, they'd be pretty upfront. They're like, no. Yeah. This is what you're doing wrong.
That was just him particularly, but
But I think that is the sensibility of a lot of Pentecostal churches. There is this like, I don't want to tread on anyone's toes. That's what I perceived. I don't know if that's true.
Fair enough.
Here's what's so funny about it.
Good point.
And
just to quickly point out, these boundaries, which can be good, a percentage of people will adopt it and believe it and then practice it, and a percentage of people will simply just do it behind your back instead. Where it just doesn't come to the light.
Yes.
Just now a black marker for it gets created instead. Yeah. So there's sometimes like what will happen with like say a more open church is they won't have that boundaries, but they'll see their flaws up front. Like you'll see that person's crazy. Like you'll know for sure what someone's like flaws are. Well, with other churches you go to and you're like, I feel like I don't know who this person is. It feels like there's a war here of like, who are you? And then it's not until later on when you get to know them, you're like, oh, look, there's actually a lot of like flaws that you just haven't really shared with everyone, but I can see there's a lot of hidden flaws in your heart that no one actually knows about, but it's there.
Yeah, I think that does, but I don't think that's that likely to happen if you like. Why say anything's wrong at all then? If we're worried about that, right? Like, I feel like the more that you kind of, it's because it's a community, right? If something in the community is seen as wrong and could lead to you having a bad standing in the community, you're probably less likely to do it. Doesn't mean you won't do it, and it means if you do it, it'll be behind people's backs. But even then, the likelihood is lower because most people will be trying really hard not to do it. And if they do it, it's going to be a lot less extreme, and it'll be a lot less accepted, and there'll be a lot more of actual genuine, like desire to repent. So if you're in a church where it's like, oh, it's cool that you're like having sex before marriage with your partner, and that's like no one really says anything, people are just going to keep doing it. But if you're at a church where you're really teaching, hey, that's like not a cool way. That's actually not how God wants us to do things. Like there's forgiveness, there's grace, there's all of that, and we're not to judge in that sense where we're putting someone down, but we're out to call out sin. If you say that, at least when people do slip up, and even if they're not saying anyone, at least that's on their mind that it's wrong. Because I've seen it. I've met people who just like don't care, and they're just like, no, it's fine because everyone else is fine with it.
That's fair enough. But I don't think that's something that's typical of like a Pentecostal. Like I don't think Pentecostal churches go around saying, "Hey, sex before marriage."
Oh no, I don't think they're saying that's fine, but they're not as hardlined about it. They're not like hammering people.
No, I think
not
they are.
not as hard as I think. Like I think they are, but not as hard as say
But it depends on the church.
Because I think I say this as someone who's gone to Pentecostal churches. I've seen the difference at a Sydney I've only really been to Sydney Anglican churches and one Baptist Chinese church, which was quite conservative as well. They hammer it hard. Like it's a shameful thing to do.
Maybe this is why
same.
I also feel like a bit like
that No, not all of them.
But it's like it's intense though. It's like you really like and everyone else is like nah. And people put boundaries. Like people don't even like crash at their partner's house even if they're sleeping and even if they live with their parents and they're going to sleep in a different room.
That's the people though. Yeah.
But they taught that. That's in the teaching. Like they're taught that. So they're taught, oh, this is how I do things.
Yeah,
so for me, like
I don't like everything that you're talking about is also being done in the churches that I've been to, and they're also the churches that you have.
Then why would you say that it's more prevalent?
You know what? I was thinking about this, and I had another thing.
Yeah,
maybe it's also got to do with the people and what they're attracted to in the church.
Okay,
that's for example, Anglican people are more intellectual. Because it's a very big
they are.
comparison,
They are. You know what they are, but they're not emotionally intelligent.
Because what they seem to do is they take the verse and then they break it down.
Yeah.
And they break down that one verse. That's the way they study the word. Whereas Hillsong or other Pentecostal churches, the way they do it is very different. But in the Pentecostal church, to a certain degree, it's all about the high. What a beautiful name. Oh, the chorus is coming. Oh, the chorus is coming. Oh,
don't say it like that, bro.
It's like a high.
Very,
everything is about a high. Everything is one big high. Oh, revival is coming. Like they're always waiting for the drop. When is the drop going to happen? The drop never happens. The best is yet to come. It's never here.
Which isn't even
revival
biblical.
is never here. The revival is never here. It's always coming. Something better is always coming. It's always happening tomorrow. Oh, this church conference is great. But the next one will be even better. Oh, but when this happens, or when the drop comes, guys, let's get into it. Let's do another song to get everyone hyped up before the word, so everyone can be like at the right emotional place. A lot of the people, and me included, by the way, who tend to go to the Pentecostal churches, I would say they chase the feelings. So because they're a little bit more kinesthetic, if you've done NLP, auditory, kinesthetic, because they're a lot more kinesthetic people, feely, touchy and stuff like that, I would say that potentially opens up doors to like allow things to happen. It doesn't necessarily mean 100% it always leads to that.
Here's what's so funny to me.
But it leaves those grounds.
Because you're right, but the way I see it, if you're an intellectual, the intellectual is going to be your weakness. If you're a kinesthetic person, the kinesthetic is going to be your weakness. Like the same way, I don't know exactly what your slant of Anglicans would be, but I'd imagine if you're always so like I guess you kind of hinted at before. You said they're not as emotionally intelligent.
Oh, Anglicans are like that's why I struggle.
Which is super important in regards to relationships.
Yeah.
But it also depends on the sin too.
Because there's different
for
sins
example,
in Anglican church as well.
That's right. There's different sins. There'll be different, and I'm not saying all of them do all of them, right? But I guess like what I'm more specifically talking about is like an example could be if you go to a more intellectual church, it might be intellectual pride. About what they know.
And that's the thing, right? The Anglican pride is a thing. That's a thing.
And maybe no like forgiveness for certain sins.
Exactly.
Whereas in Pentecostal, it's more like, oh, come here, like you know what I mean.
That's the thing, right? So okay. What we will fall into, the trap, say a Pentecostal will fall into, it may be the kinesthetic sins.
Yeah.
But the other sins that an Anglican will fall into will be the intellectual sins, will be the prideful, which can be as bad. It's just more hit. It's not as out in the open. It's stuff you can hide. Look, I have Christian friends from every denomination, and the reason why I feel like the idea of people hiding it while I'm like beating that horn is because once I get to know each and every one of them from every denomination I've known, they are messed up. So I'm not gonna just believe that this denomination's switched on, and this denomination is like
Yeah,
this
for
messed
sure.
up one. No, when I've gotten to know people from every denomination, they've all confided in me. I've confided in them about how flawed we are. So I don't get pulled into that anymore.
I agree with that. I guess just to build off that, I think what I really mean to say is, I think in terms of sexual sin with Pentecostal churches is, yeah, like it happens in my denomination as well. I just think we have more systems to fight it, and it's more like something that we're like, we need to fight this. What I don't see in some Pentecostal churches, and again, this is my own anecdotal experience, I could be totally wrong, is that it's just like, oh man, I slipped up again, like, but there's no systems, and there isn't that same like, I'm really gonna like go hard on this. But I will say this as well. I think what frustrates me about Anglicans, and this is why I'm more drawn towards Pentecostal churches now, to be honest, is
Come to the dark. No, like,
no, it's a lightsaber. No, genuinely, like the reason I go to my church is because it's like it's like a Pentecostal church. It's Anglican, but it's very Pentecostal vibes. Like I probably wouldn't go to an Anglican church again, to be honest. Like genuinely, because I've had.
I'm just very, very curious
Yeah.
about this, Poya. Because the Anglican thing is kind of like, what do Anglicans make of the verse of the story of David dancing like an animal?
Oh, they think that's mad. There's nothing. They don't have. Just like, yeah, it's cool. And that's not the issue. The issue is like their thing is like they're so big on like theological integrity and making sure the word is taught properly.
Yeah.
They
get into pride about it.
But they get into pride about it. That's such a thing. That's one of the main issues I have. And what I really respect about Pentecostals, and is why I think one of the things I think they do better than anyone, is they're so warm.
Yeah,
I've walked into a penny church and I just feel warm.
If you feel the love.
You feel the love. You walk into an Anglican church, people like in a general sense, they're just like, oh hi.
yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
it's just, and it's annoying. And for me personally, the reason I became disenfranchised is when I went through some really rough things. People just threw theology at me, and people were just like, there was no one was like, oh man, that's rough. Can I pray for you? Do you want to hang out? I could go to any Pentecostal church, right? Not even know a guy, and someone be like, you look heavy. You look like you're carrying some heaviness. What's going on? That would not happen at Anglican church.
Really?
Unless it's mine. My church is pretty good. But like a lot of them, no. It's just like I keep to myself. I know the Bible super well. And they treat the Bible like a textbook at times, which pisses me off,
They're
man.
trying to get an A.
They're trying to get, dude, the amount of dick swinging in the Anglican church pisses me. And I use that word intentionally. I'm going to be polarizing. Like I went to Christian camps and they're just like throwing all these theological arguments. I'm like, yeah, how many non-Christian friends do you have, bro? How many people you evangelizing to? Oh, no. Oh, no one. Oh, cool, man. Yeah. Because that theology is like come real hand.
And that's why I love people like Poya, who have a heart for like the disenfranchised, because and you see this a lot. You see this online a lot as well. Back to the whole reality versus internet.
Yeah.
Like Christians can fall into the trap of, hey, forget about loving your neighbor because their sin is a sin that you don't like or is uncomfortable to you. But you know that you are doing plenty of stuff that is sinful as well, or you endorse a lot of people who do sinful things. And I find that like I have another friend who he's like very he has a big heart for like I guess those who are like in the LGBT community. And it's just the empathy there. But what will happen is this: we'll use conviction as a reason to kind of like Bible bash someone. Oh, you got to convict them, right? You got to tell them what they're doing is wrong, which is true. Like you can't just pretend like everything's buddy. But I think
intention matters, though.
You can feel the heart behind it. You can feel when someone's coming to you.
The heart behind it.
You can feel when someone's like, man, like I love you, but like what you're doing is messed up. Versus you're going to hell, or like you're messed up. Like you can feel there's no love behind it. That's not going to work.
Yeah, and I remember having an argument. You can absolutely so many memories flash to mind. Like I'm just like, I don't know if that's true, man. They're just like, well, it is. You haven't read the Bible. Get out your Bible, mate. I'll show you. It's like, bros, are you possessed by a devil? Because I can see it right through your eyes, bro. Literally. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's insane. Like okay, I want to ask a question. I wonder what your perspectives are, because we've all been in church. We've all done church for a bit.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that we've seen, and it also ties back into the first topic of reality versus internet, is that it's like we're taught as Christians, forgive them, do this, do this, do this. But it's like Christians, bro, it's like at the first sign of trouble, just abandon everything they learned, and like, nah, I'm not talking to him. Nah, I'm done with him. Nah, not forgiving him. Yeah, forgiveness. Yeah, forget that. That's not for me for this particular case. But it's like they abandon everything they know.
Yeah.
And we see it, the judgment, forgetting everything they know. It's like we talk a big game, but sometimes we don't do a big game. And of course, I'm generalizing here. Not everyone is like that. But my theory is there's something about Christians that makes us more easy to fall into that trap.
Pride.
Of that pride. But why? Why is it Christian?
Do you actually think it's Christians, or do you think it's just people?
People.
But I also
I don't think it's a Christian thing. I think it's a people thing.
I think more.
But I don't think more Christians. I don't think Christians are more susceptible to that than more other people. I think they're equally susceptible.
It's just in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah. They'll
really
become
don't
very
think there's any
prideful.
difference.
No,
Yeah,
no. What they'll become prideful for will be different than what Christians will become. Like, we will become prideful for like the word of God, and that's where like we will, tuck our heels in. It's like we're not gonna let go. We're gonna like fight this to the death. But like everyone else has that version of what they'll do it for.
True, but you don't think me having a Bible where I'm told this is the truth, this is the law of God, which it does, and I agree, allows that, it almost like if I'm told that this is the golden standard for life, this is the truth, it's not that is making the mistake, but it's us as humans are more likely, now that we've been told that this is the ultimate way, it's just easier for us to come from pride.
Yes, but I just think naturally,
you know what I mean?
it will evolve even in non-Christian circles.
Yeah, because
that
everyone
will happen
for sure.
as well.
Because everyone believes they have the ultimate way.
Yeah.
The conservatives believe they have the ultimate way. The woke, whatever you want to call it, believe they have the ultimate way. The Muslims, the Jews, everyone believes they have the ultimate way.
And it just goes majority
Everyone's
rules.
religious.
Whatever's the current consensus, that's the law. And then as the consensus changes, the law changes. Bro, I was having a conversation with one of my old school friends I saw on the metro one time, and he said something that I was thinking about it for so long, and it hit so hard. So he has a nephew who he's super young, and he's teaching him like life. And one of the things he was teaching him was like, hey, don't cross the street until the light goes green. So one day they came to a street, and basically he went to go cross it. And his nephew's like, no, we can't go because the light hasn't gone green yet. And he goes, how am I going to teach him nuance? How am I going to teach him nuance? His mind, he saw the child only learned the surface level of what was truth. He didn't realize there's layers to when a truth applies. And I think the same thing happens with the word, where when you read the word, there'll be things in it, and if you say this isn't true, like I feel like you're not properly reading it. You'll see things that kind of contradict other parts of the Bible, if you're being honest with yourself.
It's that whole, what is it, milk versus solid foods thing that Paul talks about?
Well, I wasn't about to go down that route, but
I just reminded me of that.
But like you'll see certain passages that seem to contradict other passages, and you'll be like, well, which one's truth, right? And I think wisdom is realizing that they all have their place in time. You need to know the nuance of when it applies. Because what happened with the Pharisees? The Pharisees see Christ healing on the Sabbath, and they just have surface level knowledge. So they're like, oh, why are you working on the Sabbath? Why are you healing? And Christ is like, no, you don't understand nuance. This is okay when I'm doing it in this sense. I think the same thing happens all the time.
But you know what, Josh? I don't know if it's actually layers of truth, but I think that there is a principle to underlying truth, and that is, it's got to do with being authentic.
How so?
So, like, for example, he was contending, well, it's not about if you commit adultery. Even if you look at a woman, you've committed adultery. So he's saying it's by the heart. It's on a deeper level. So there is a way to be able to tell truth at a deeper level. Because I'm talking about the Pharisees, and they didn't understand the deepness of it. It's not intellectually deep. It's just being really in touch with here. Because in your heart of hearts, looking at a woman lustfully, even before Jesus said it was the wrong thing.
I don't know if some people have that, man.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Because it's like, is that like C.S. Lewis's natural law argument where he says,
yes.
I think about that, but I'm like, is that actually true? Because surely there's people who just don't have that.
I think that people yeah, that's actually a very
Like serial killers, they don't have that, right?
that's a
They're
very
like, no, I like
interesting
killing
topic.
people, man. It's fun.
How much time do we have left, by the way? Have we?
No, it's good. It's good to.
We'll finish on.
Yeah,
that.
because
good.
we're about 28
Five.
minutes in on this one, so I reckon let's wrap up in 5.
5. You
Okay.
wrap it up, Josh.
Me wrap it up?
Yeah.
Well, I just want to put a pin on this, though, which is like, if you think about the Pharisees, right, they're going off the Old Testament context, which is, there's more to God's wisdom and God's law than what was just in the Old Testament, the Torah. Which is why when Peter comes to Christ and is like, how many times should I forgive my brother? Or the whole eye for an eye thing, Christ always upped the game. He's like, bro, I'm gonna show you the next level. You think you thought you knew it, there's a next level to it.
Yeah.
70 times 7, forget eye for an eye, like, turn the other cheek. Like what we
He's
thought
talking
we
about
knew.
this has to be perfect. Yeah.
That's a whole another level of it. But I'm kind of going a bit of a rant at the
No,
moment.
you're cooking,
but-
bro. Keep going.
Cooking. Yeah.
No, because you said something that I was like, I think I was trying to respond to, but then I forgot what you were saying.
I was talking about how like there is an element of being able to tell.
Oh, you already feel it in your
Yeah.
heart. Oh yeah, and I was saying that I think when we first learn truth or a level of truth, we think that that's the end all be all. But in reality, things are always evolving and you're learning more and God's revealing more to you as time goes on. And then you have to be humble enough to say, oh, I thought I knew it, but there's actually more to this than meets the eye kind of thing.
Yeah, I like. There's a good example that my old church they preached on where they're talking about baptism, and it's like, yeah, you should get baptized, but then you look at the thief on the cross; he didn't get baptized. There's a whole idea of like first principles versus context, right? So, the one I love is lying, because lying's a sin, right? We all know lying's bad.
Ooh, are you about to throw a spanner in the works?
You're in World War II. You're hiding Jews in your basement. The Nazis. Nazis come knocking.
Straight away, I have no guilt for doing that.
Yeah, I'd lie.
Bro, that's so deep.
And I think it's taking those first principles, applying. I have actually a personal story that
But this is why, Poya, I think this is the ultimate. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just feel that. Like, I feel like deep in anyone's heart, everyone knows it's okay. Do you know what I mean?
I think I don't know, because there's people who just are just like evil.
I don't. Can give
Which
me one
I'm like-
example of one person who would say that that like you can't.
What's his name? That guy who ate people, Jeffrey Dahmer. I really don't know. I don't know. I'm not.
No, I'm talking about the context of like which human being would say yeah.
Oh, he was hiding them.
Yeah. And
Oh, Kevin, speaking to the mic, bro.
Yeah. Which Christian would ever like argue?
There was a
that-
story. There was a
You know
story
what I
of a guy who actually was hiding Jewish people in his house, and then the Nazis came, and then he just trusted God's I don't know, providence so much that he just said, "Yeah, I am," but they thought he was joking, so they just left. So there's weird ones where it's like
That's interesting.
happens, right?
that's a whole other
And
angle.
I think that also depends on that person's conviction as well.
Yeah, that's the other tricky thing, man. There's a lot of, and I guess that's what you're saying, right?
There's a lot of grey in
That's
Christianity.
why I feel like humility is so important. Like, if
Yeah.
you come at it very dogmatic, like, I understand, like, you need boundaries, you need rules, but you have to leave some area for gray of realizing, hey, I don't know everything. There may be certain elements of this I don't understand that I need, like, humility to learn and grow in.
You know, that's why it's really funny, because there's a lot of black and white Christian thinkers. And the funny thing is, the black and white Christian thinkers, what they will say is that they'll say it's you know, you're trying to take the easy way out. I'm like, you're trying to take the easy way out. There's no thinking involved for you just to easily be like, oh, this is right and this is wrong. The people who actually sit there and are like, this is actually a great topic, I don't know what the truth is, are the ones who are actually willing to like do mental battle with this topic. The people are just like, I'm not thinking, that's right, and this is wrong. I'm just agreeing with, you know what I mean?
You know what? There's
It's
two
dumb.
camps. There's two camps.
Yeah.
There's that camp, and then there's the people who actually like doing the sins, but they use the grey argument. Like, no, the Bible's more grey. I've met people like that, bro. I think I've probably done that.
Yeah,
like I
for
like
sure.
Meji. I've had to really repent of like my tongue and edgy jokes I've made, because I was like,
Good-
no,
good
it's just
point.
comedy. But I'm like, well, you know what? I think it's maybe I shouldn't. I feel the Spirit saying you shouldn't make that joke. But yeah, it's people who are like, oh, no, the Bible's nuanced and complex. I'm like, well, let's chat about it. Like, because I think you're actually sinning, and it's like, no, I'm not. And it's the same with the black and white people. They don't want to have a chat either. And
Yeah.
they're both taking the easy way
If you're
out.
willing to have the conversation, which what I really appreciate about both you guys like to get into the mud and have that conversation and to try to work it out and wrestle with it. That being said, is it time that we begin to wrap things up? Because I think we are about to go over now. Guys, we appreciate you listening to the BOB podcast, the Bridges of Belief podcast. You are listening to Joshua Badu, Poya. What's your surname, bro?
Just call it Poya. It's just Poya, bro.
Just
they know who
Poya,
I am.
like shit.
Poya. Yeah.
Joshua Badu, Poya, and Kevin Paulraj will be back again soon. Take care.
Take care, guys. Shout out to Bella Vista Hotel. Leah's their CEO.
Shout out to who's the girl we met?
Oh,
but before that, I shout out to Dean.
Shout out to Dean. Shout out to our boy Dean.
Hey, yeah, forget that other girl, bro. Dean, bro, you're number one, bro.
Beautiful smile.
Thank you.
Beautiful smile.
All right, ladies.
All right, peace.